The only thing I would change is I would have convinced some of my family members to move into my apartment with me. They're not in New York City, and make it a family business, because I could have used the help at the beginning, especially. Or my mom to do my laundry and to cook for me still. That would have been really good. But I mean, it is something you learn as you go, and you manage. And I learn a lot about myself all the time, and things I do well, things I don't do well. But the one specific thing about my truck I do a little bit differently is when I designed the truck, there are like one or two things I've learned. If I build out a second truck, I might do a little bit differently, just about the design and how I use it and how I move in the truck. But and I just say the Ernie Wong from this place, Shanghai Stainless, he's amazing, and he's done so many of the trucks. And he's also, it's a family-run business in Brooklyn. He's also an amazing support for and just believes in food vendors for carts and trucks. And he's designed so many, so it's interesting to talk to him, because as he works on like my truck and then moves to the Waffles truck and then moves to the Van Leeuwen or whatever, that his ideas about design change too. So you can kind of look at the trucks and the evolution of certain things about the trucks, which are really interesting too. And so that's the only thing, but that's not a major thing. I work with the truck the way it is, and it's great.
Are you subject to regulation the way that the restaurants are? You know, they have the health department come and give them a hard time.
No. We have inspections that are not planned. So you always, like right now, since my truck's down, I have this on. You always have to have this showing when you're working. So,
and the hat.
And you always have to have your head covered.
Yeah.
And you always have to have
your hat on all the time.
Even if you have your head shaved. I had shaved it down with a razor my first summer and still got
But still you have to have a hat,
Yeah, so the health department gives you paperwork. They have papers on you. They have your spots. Plus they come and do spot inspections.
It's more than the restaurant though for pushcart, because the restaurant they mostly get once a year inspection. But the pushcart, they get random inspection. Inspector walks by your car, he sees 10 people staying, he definitely gonna stop by and check you out. And especially when you're famous, they're gonna frequently visit you.
Actually, just two questions. One for the author. As far as, could you go over the licensing application process and just kind of on an overview of that, how it works and timelines?
In New York or
New York.
compare?
Okay.
Well, actually, I'll let these guys do that, because I got the city version of it, and what the city likes to tell you is quite different from how it actually works in reality.
Well, I mean, I think generally in any city office or any city kind of thing, it's just it's very confusing, and it depends on who you speak to at an office. So it just with any kind of, I think anything you go to apply for, any kind of business permit, any kind of anything, if I go up to window 3, I might have a different experience than window 6. If I go up to window 6 twice, but at different times of the day, the same person might give me a slightly different answer. I don't think it's just about the food trucks. I think that in general, it can be very confusing.
So,
I don't know about other cities too.
Oh, yeah.
And also, you do need this badge that Kim has to be able to work on a truck. And to get that, you have to go to a Department of Health class, which is really fascinating. It's about grease traps. And I remember one of the big subject was about cooking hot dogs, and how it didn't make any sense that you could do them on a cart that's only licensed to reheat, because a hot dog is a raw food and you have to cook it from raw. But a hot dog is cooked, you know. You just need to. So, and well, there's no mentioning that. But also the class, you learn great things like if you're giving somebody a gyro, they don't want to find a fingernail in it, so you shouldn't wear press-ons. One of the things in the book, which is all illustrations, was who is ready for work, and it was a woman with a little apron and a hairnet and gloves, and then next to her the same outline, but with track marks and basically flies buzzing around her. And that was one of the multiple choice questions on the test, A or B, to choose those. That was a great waste of a couple of nights, and then about 2 months to wait for the badge to come in the mail.
Oh, more than 2 months. I've hired young college kids to work for me, and then they work baking for me until we get them their papers. And it took a year for one of the girls to get her license to work on the truck.
And you have to have this badge before you can try somebody out to work at all, which is one of the difficulties we've had is, geez, I don't know who I want to work for me, and I can't test them out until they've gone to this class, done the whole certification, waited months.
To get that ID, you have to get a tax ID first. first thing is tax ID, then you have to go to the, like he said, the health department, fill it up all the forms. Right now, they're only issuing this one, food vendor license only. But the permits for the card, like he said, he want to open a card. New York City's license are frozen right now. They're not issuing new food vendor license. Unless somebody already has a hot dog card or something he doesn't want to do anymore. 30 years he was doing it and he want to sell it to somebody, then you can buy and run for another 2 years. Then if the owner wish, he will renew it for you, otherwise you lose your money. Like it's pretty hard right now in New York City. But in Portland, Oregon, LA, and very easy. 3 months you can get everything card running off, you know. New York City, they want to limit the cards.
And in Chicago, there's actually like people are organizing to try to help make it possible for food trucks, right?
Yeah, we kind of lucked out with the recent election of Rahm Emanuel as our mayor, so we're hoping that as he takes office, I know he has a few other important things to do, but food trucks are on his list, and he's gone on record saying that he's going to legalize food trucks in Chicago. So it was pretty ironic for me to be working on this book for a year based in Chicago, where food trucks in the model that we see here are not legal. The parameters that I was sort of working with this book that I set about with my publisher, 10 Speed Press, was there are so many food trucks out there, so I really wanted to feature trucks and carts and trailers that are cooking food on the truck. I made an exception for a couple of mentions for a couple of people, including this one, because I think she's awesome. And, and for Rickshaw Dumpling, they were mentioned. They do a really nice product, but they, in terms of cooking from start to finish in front of you, that model is illegal in Chicago. Currently, you have to have a commissary kitchen, and you have to make everything there, package it up, label it with all of the things you would see on a packaged item in the airport or something, and then keep it either in a warmer or in a fridge case. So it's very sanitized, and it doesn't allow for a very diverse just range of food, and it's not delicious. So that's kind of the bottom line. So we're working on that now, but even with those restrictions, we have about a dozen trucks now that are up and running, and they're making a go of it. And I think within the next year, we're hoping to get that passed. We have an alderman that just recently backed legislation changes, so it's sitting before city council. But in Chicago, a lot of it is about who you know, and with Daley Junior, Daley Senior, and all the aldermen and all those, back market deals or whatever they're up to, it was not going to happen. So luckily now, hopefully with Rahm, we'll get it switched around in Chicago. We're hoping within a year. So, sure.
How influenced are you by the weather? And how much do you know how to take on any day?
Well, you stand outside.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's rough.
For me, actually, I love any kind of weather. As long as people love me, I'm allowed to be there, So it doesn't bother for me the weather though. I love the cold anyway. I'm from the hot country.
You're awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit harder if it's too extreme in any way. If it's pouring rain, if it's really super hot, even for ice cream. I talked to a lot of ice cream friends. If it's too extreme, it does affect our business. But it's also on the days that the weather's great, it's great. Or in the days that the weather's just slightly rainy or slightly something, then people come to you and they're just so happy to be like, oh, I want this food, and isn't this great? But it does affect the trucks.
The only thing that really bums me out is that there's a couple of leaks in the roof, and when it starts pouring, it really rains in my truck, which is a drag. Yeah.
Do you ever think we'll get to the point in this country where we have traveling food trucks going around to different cities in a new place every day?
Somebody's doing it.
But people ask us to come to, but we can't even go serve in Hoboken, because we would need to be licensed there.
Do
So
you think it will ever happen though, that will change and it'll become some sort of
no,
Not until,
sadly.
rule?
not until there's some sort of national rule over everything, and in that case, we should all move pretty quickly.
Yeah, no.
In LA, they do like special events and stuff. You can get a permit and they can come to your place and cook. Like she having an event, so she can get a special permit. They give like 6-hour permit.
Like a one-night event.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we could go do private parties pretty much anywhere, but as far as just being able to pull up and work, boy, we can't go outside the boroughs.
Also, the trucks, there are different regulations. Like when I see LA trucks, their windows are so much higher. They're different. Like my window's really open, but you have to have side piece panels. But in LA, they like look at you like through something like this. And so yeah, it's like this. It's kind of like they're looking at you.
And Portland, Oregon, you can go inside the truck and sit and eat like a restaurant. It's
Oh, I
like
like
a big
that.
trailer. Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
bus in Portland that does grilled
like
cheese.
VIP bus,
and
yeah.
it's VIP.
Yeah.
As Theory says, yes, it's VIP.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of models there. They're pretty open about it, but their model there in Portland is primarily carts. So it's interesting the difference. Here he has a cart, as Doug mentioned. He's out in the elements. He's cooking live off of his cart. The carts in Portland, they actually have to be inside their cart, and
Yeah.
it's almost like a little wooden
Everything
box.
has to be inside.
So
Nothing cannot
they're
be
sort of in
outside.
this little box, and they are actually cooking fresh in a box that's oftentimes 6 feet by 9 feet, and they're making everything there fresh on the carts. And it's really interesting to see the difference in the models. So in Philly and mainly Philly area, they're all about the Grumman trucks there. These big bad old Grumman trucks, UPS step van style thing, but they're pretty battered and beat up. A lot of the trucks there have been there for 25 years. They're brutal. And then in Austin, it sort of plays into their aesthetic that they have going in Austin. So they really embrace that kitschy Americana nostalgia of Airstream trailers and that whole style there, which is really cool, and it really helps set their scene apart from the other scenes. They all sort of have a different look as you go from city to city.
Okay, so I have two for you and two for you.
Okay.
And I have to just ask them so I don't forget them.
Sure.
So, how did you get someone to publish a book about food trucks? And what was the smallest city? And describe that culture, the smallest amount of food trucks that you talked about. And then where do you guys go to the bathroom? And did you have to, before you designed your truck, do you have to get a permit first, or were you allowed to design whatever truck you wanted and then before you got a permit?
No, you got to first go to health department, get a law and rules and regulation. Then you can design your own cart. For me, I designed my own cart, so I first went and got what has to be in the car, like hand washing sink, hot water tank, cold water tank. Both has to be running, soap, paper towel, and then the grill. If you have a grill, if you have smoke, you have to have a tuck line, and you have to have exhaust like restaurant, Yeah.
But you can design a truck, but then if you don't get a permit, it'll just never see any. You'll have to keep it hidden somewhere.
A lot of people it's happened. They design their own and they went to the health department. They won't pass you inspection.
Well,
They say it's
like the
tough.
tank is the wrong size. I have water tanks. I have both hot and cold water. Yeah, but this one's half an inch the wrong size.
Everything they measure, every single inch. So 1 inch shorter, you fail the inspection. You got to go fix it and come back. So some card you design is unable to fix it. You're done with it. You keep like a souvenir and give it to the museum.
Then, let's say you're walking down the street and you really need a bathroom. If you ask a food vendor, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get a good answer. Because, you know what I mean? Like certain spots of mine, I'll know.
Yeah.
Oh, you know that place across the street, that PC Richards? Palace of a bathroom. Go there.
Right.
Or someone will say, not all Gaps have a bathroom, but that Gap on 5th and whatever that has a bathroom.
For me, it's For me, it's the Washington Square Park. They have a public bathroom. And right in front is NYU, New York University. 35 to 40% from NYU all have NYU ID, so they use it.
I generally wait until someone a regular customer is in line, and I'll say to them, I've really got to pee. Will you pretend that I'm back here making your cone? And so I'll run to the bathroom, and they'll stand there like I'm off getting something in the front of the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how.
And you have to practice yoga too.
Yoga.
Yeah, that helps you really, Yeah, for real. Because sometimes for me it's really, really busy.
Yeah,
My tea glass is right here. 2 hours I cannot even take a sip of the tea because line down the block, 60 people waiting. I don't want to take a sip and cook, So I wait till 12:30 to 2:30 is my busiest time, He knows he comes there, so. Yeah.
Interestingly enough about the bathrooms in Silver Lake,